Rick Sutcliffe, ESPN baseball analyst, former Cubs, Indians pitcher, Dodgers pitcher, too. Sut will be calling the National League Divisional Series between the Dodgers and the Braves with Chris Berman starting tomorrow. He joins us now. Hey, Sut, how are you? Where are you right now?
Sitting here out on the deck looking at the ocean in San Diego. Where are you at?
I'm in Connecticut. I'm not staring at the ocean, but good for you. Good for you.
You know, I was going to start off with apologizing for Monday. As you know, John Shambi, David Ross, and I did the game in L.A. Against the Rockies, and we just got word that our ratings for that day were the highest in the 20-year history of ESPN. And I'm going to apologize because I would imagine your ratings weren't very good, buddy.
Yeah, because we were competing with you, son.
And, you know, I had another thought, too. Remember a couple of years ago when they brought a bunch of the old guys back to do play-by-play?
Yeah.
Remember when Kurt Gowdy and a lot of those guys came back, how cool it was? Why wouldn't they bring you back to do a game?
No.
I mean,
No, I never did games.
Qualify
No.
I know that. Why is that?
But I, they wanted me to come back for SportsCenter, but I didn't want to come back and do SportsCenter.
You know, speaking of old farts, I start the division series on radio with Boomer.
Hey, and
let me tell all your listeners out there the key to driving fast is years ago, like in Chicago when I played there, I would keep baseballs there in case I got pulled over. It was always convenient. But a lot of these cops these days don't remember me playing, so I have Chris Bryant balls, I have Eddie Vedders, I have a couple of Bill Murrays in my car.
You give him an autograph.
I
know. I can imagine.
Oh, as I look for my registration, those baseballs are sitting right there.
But
I missed you, buddy. Good to be back.
You came up with the Dodgers, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay. But did you pitch for the Dodgers, or you were just in the organization?
I did.
Okay.
No, I came up in 76. I got called up from AA in September. I got injured in 77, got back at the end of 78, and then 79, I was there, 80, 81. I was with the club 81 during that strike season. They went on to win the World Series. I wasn't on that postseason roster. I rearranged Lasorda's office, as you remember, and I ended up getting traded to Cleveland about a week later. Yeah.
What was the build up to that when you go in and you get so upset with Tommy Lasorda that you just tear everything apart?
Well, I was told that I was going to get to start one more game. And the second half of the season, it didn't matter. And Tommy started saying that the opportunity didn't present itself. One thing led to another, and I just started rearranging, his office a little bit. He didn't care for that. But a career, really a life-saving moment was I was going to throw his rolling chair through the big Frank Sinatra wall. You saw it, all the pictures and albums all over the world. To Tommy, love Frank. And as I started to throw it, Dusty Baker had come into the office, and he grabbed the chair, and he told me, he said, "Kid," he said, "you're in enough trouble. You don't need Frank pissed off." So that's probably the number one reason I'm able to be with you here today. So, yeah.
But if you didn't do that, what would have happened with your career if you didn't go crazy and tear apart Tommy Lasorda's office?
That's a great question because I went to Cleveland and ran into a guy named Bert Blyleven. And the first week of camp, he said, "Hey, come on, go running with me." And he used to go run for like 6 to 8 miles, 3 or 4 times a week. Well, I couldn't keep up halfway with him. And Dan, seriously, the next thing you know, at the end of camp, I'm running with him. I mean, I'm not faster than him, but I'm running with him.
Yeah.
And like a month into the season, Dave Garcia gave me an opportunity to get into the rotation. And as he handed me the baseball, he said, "Don't let anybody take it away from you." And that was 82. I was lucky to win the ERA title in 82. I was an All-Star in 83. 84, of course, Chicago was a lot of fun. And a lot of that had to do with seriously running into Bert Blyleven and Dave Garcia believing in me.
Let me start with the baseball last night. The Cubs are out. Is the Cubs dynasty over here?
Oh, no. No, not even close to being over. I will say that I would imagine Theo's going to make some changes. What they are, I don't know. There were some guys that had off years. There were some free agent signings that didn't work. There were a lot of things that didn't go well, but yet when you look at it, I mean, they still won 95 games. I think the biggest thing that I saw that they didn't have was speed. I think they had 60 stolen bases on the year. Baez had a third of those. Of course, Terrence Gore came over, and I mean, I think he stole a half dozen bases at the end that made everything look like, hey, that's what we need. We need guys in the lineup that can do that. But it was just the inconsistency, Dan. You know the story. I mean, 40 times they scored one run or didn't score.
Yeah.
They 21 times since the All-Star break that happened. If they scored two or more runs since the All-Star break, they were 37-13. It was just inconsistent. But I'll tell you what, everybody will point to 13 innings last night and losing 2-1. You go back to Monday, they lost 3-1. The game that got me, we did the game for ESPN on Friday against St. Louis. They won. The game that got me was the game Saturday. They lost 2-1 to St. Louis, really a team that had nothing really going for it. They knew that there wasn't a lot for them to play for. I think they might have even been eliminated at that time. But then they lost 2-1 to St. Louis on Saturday. If they don't lose that game, there's no game 163. There's no wild card game. I point back to that game as really being the thing that led to all of this.
That's interesting. We're talking to Rick Sutcliffe. Sut will be on the call with Chris Berman, Dodgers Braves, and that will be tomorrow, the National League Divisional Series. Surprised Clayton Kershaw is not going game one?
No, I'm not. It's not. Dan, it's not the Clayton Kershaw that we've known. Walker Buehler is. Dave Roberts didn't want to say it the other day, but he's become their ace. I mean, he by far has the best stuff that they have. The postseason history for Clayton, it's not great, although it's gotten better as of late. When you're talking about the Dodgers and you're talking about Andrew Friedman, we learned with him and Joe Madden down in Tampa that they're smarter than just about everybody else in the game. Theo's in that conversation as well, but there's data that they have that we're just not privy to. I've seen it in spring training a lot with the Cubs, information that I didn't have to begin with ESPN. But I'm sure, that there's a lot of analytics and sabermetrics and all that crap that I know nothing about. I'm sure there's a lot of that led to somebody else starting game one and Clayton, picking up the second game.
We had Oral Hershiser on last week, and he said he thinks Clayton Kershaw is the greatest pitcher of all time.
I'm not going to argue with that. I would say the greatest I ever saw was Greg Maddux, and I know that they have a lot of things in common. I don't know if Clayton's going to get to 350 wins, but I will tell you a great story. A couple of years ago, believe it or not, Sandy Koufax came into the booth when we were doing a game, and I asked him if he would sit down with us, and he sat down for a full inning. And I posed a question to him, Dan. I said, Clayton Kershaw was pitching. I said, is it fair that people want to compare Clayton Kershaw's career to your career? And he said, Rick, I just hope when Clayton's career is done, they still want to compare me to what he did. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so humble. It's the way Sandy's always been. But I think he was being honest as far as that is concerned as well. And, if Clayton is able to continue to pitch through these back issues, his career probably will. In a lot of ways, there'll probably be better numbers than what there were with Sandy. What's missing, though, is that World Series ring.
What is it about, Maddox wasn't a great postseason pitcher. Glavine wasn't a great postseason pitcher. I don't know if it's just coincidence, bad luck, but what is it about these great pitchers, some of the all-time great pitchers who just weren't good in the postseason?
No, you're exactly right. I think it comes down to the strikeout. I think it comes down to, the power pitching. You go back and look at John Lester and what he's done. You look at Verlander and what he did last year. I think it's come down to that. And, nowadays, I mean, if you don't throw 97, I mean, you're a finesse guy.
Yeah.
And those guys really weren't power pitchers. I think one thing too, Dan, that doesn't get considered, and it gives even more credit to guys like Lester and Smoltz who have gone on and done great things. But Maddox and Glavine by then had thrown 250 innings every year. You're not going to physically be at your best.
Mm-hmm.
So I think some of that led into some of the things that went on. But the postseason is just a different thing. You can go out there in the regular season and give up 3 in the first inning and not worry. A lot of times you're going to, especially in the American League, you're going to pitch 6 or 7 innings. But you do that in the postseason, the next thing you know, there's somebody up in the first inning to come in and bail you out.
What kind of chances do you give the Rockies against the Brewers?
I've got the Brewers going to the World Series, Dan.
Okay.
I said that a couple of months ago. Craig Counsell has done an amazing job. The additions they made in the winter with Kane and Yelich, they brought them in on the same day. And then the versatility that he has with that lineup. Craig was telling us a couple of months ago when they brought in Moustakas and they added some depth to that bullpen. He goes, I've got some bullets. He goes, I've got, if we're down by a run in the 9th inning, wait till you see the 3 guys that I'm able to send up to hit. He also likes the back end of his bullpen. He also likes a lot of the things that he has there to close down a win. So everybody thought the Dodgers or the Cubs were going to go to the World Series. I think it was about a month ago when I went. They're not the best team. Watching Milwaukee and the lineup and what Kane does there, all of a sudden Yelich has become the MVP, of course. But there's some link to that lineup, and there's some depth and quality to the back end of that bullpen.
Have you done any practical jokes lately? Pulled any pranks on your celebrity friends?
I'm sure I have. Thinking of one really, not off the bat, I can't. But the one I go back to, my favorite one of all, every time I think of you, I mean, we were there for Mark Grace's first golf tournament, and, they bring Bill Murray up, and Murray, he critiques me really good. And then all of a sudden, Gracie grabbed the mic. We started auctioning off that trip to Randy Hundley's fantasy camp. And Gracie, right off the bat, bid $1,000. And he said, I told my dad right there, Gene Grace, that I was going to buy him a trip to the fantasy camp. And Murray grabbed the mic, and he said $2,000. Well, it goes back and forth. And all of a sudden, Gracie said, $10,000 for a trip to Randy Hundley's fantasy camp for my dad. And Murray grabs the mic, and only like he can in character, he's almost crying. He goes, I told my dad that I would buy him a trip to Randy Hundley's fantasy camp, but my dad died 7 years ago. And Gracie had to spend $10,000 in his own golf tournament for a trip to Hundley's fantasy camp, who, we can go for free anytime. Anyway, I thought that was great.
But didn't you used to do stuff to Mark Harmon all the time, the great actor? You guys don't do that anymore?
Now that he's Mr. NCIS and all of that, he's kind of hard to get to. He's got security around him. But one of my favorite things of all was when the last week of David Letterman's show, you guys can go back and look at it. Mark Harmon was one of the guests, of course, that last week. And instead of talking about NCS, Harmon talked about all the mean things that I've done to him over the years. But, he got he finally got more than even. Remember when they put that billboard up on me at Wrigley right before the All-Star game? They not only put my phone number on it, which back, on that day, that's all we had. Yeah, for ticket information, the All-Star game, called Rick Sutcliffe. But then they put my senior high school picture up on that Tadburn thing. And I don't know, I don't look good now, but I looked a lot worse even back then. But the funniest part was Harmon on Letterman, he told David, he said, yeah, here's what happened. Barry Axelrod and I, our agent, it cost $17,000, and we called 15 people to see if they wanted to get even with Sutcliffe. It'll cost you $1,000. And Harmon said the first 15 said they were in. Harmon said we could have made $100,000.
But didn't you dump like rocks in his front yard or something? Didn't you do something with a dump truck with Mark Harmon?
He was rearranging he was redoing his house, which he loves to do a lot of that stuff. and he went into this big storage bin where they had all their utilities and stoves and things to show Jennifer Axelrod, Barry's wife, the stove that his mom had left him. Anyway, as Jennifer came out, I locked Mark into that storage bin. and it had one of those big chain locks. And anyways, we're on our way to the ballpark. I was playing for the Cubs that day. Barry says, well, I wonder where Mark's at. He doesn't answer his phone. And I said, well, I know where he's at. He's locked in that storage.
You left him in there?
Yeah, they eventually came and they had to cut the deadbolt to get him out. But yeah, that was it. And the favorite thing was his bachelor party when he brought all of his celebrity friends to Arizona. He's the sexiest man alive on People magazine. And, when they get out, I've got Rhino and Jody and Zonk there, and we're going to have a game. We're going to play a game against the Hollywood stars. And I give them T-shirts and hats and wristbands. And as they're running out to center field, I was going to hit him some fly balls to get him loose. Mark looked to our agent, Axelrod, and said, this is awesome. He goes, what a great guy Rick is. And, Dan, right as I got him all to center field, I had the ground crew turn on the sprinkler system. And if you turn it on full blast, as you know, it's like a BB gun. They're all laying on the ground, and they had to crawl off. And, it was recycled sewer water. And, of course, I took all their luggage and hid it. And so they end up, wearing those Cubs T-shirts the rest of the night. So, yeah, that's why the billboard went up.
Yeah, I can understand that. More of Sut telling stories with Chris Berman. That'll be tomorrow. Dodgers, Braves. Who's winning this series?
The Dodgers will win this one.
Okay.
I got the Dodgers over Atlanta. Milwaukee, I think, will beat the Rockies. I think Milwaukee will beat the Dodgers to go to the World Series. And I've got Cleveland. Waiting on them when this thing's all said and done.
Good to catch up
I've
with you.
never been right, though.
Well, but you tell great stories, though. Tell Boomer we said hello, and good to catch up with you, Sut.
We'll do it. It's always a pleasure, Dan. I'll miss you, buddy.
Thank you, buddy. That's Rick Sutcliffe, ESPN baseball analyst, former Cubs, Indians, Dodgers pitcher.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.